Hey, everybody, welcome to Making Sense of It All. As part of the continuing series that we've done with the major championships this year, I've got the Tin Cup Club on with me. Michael Shelton, thank you so much for joining me.
As always, Jesse, thanks for having me.
And Wes, it's always a pleasure, my friend.
Right back at you, man. Thanks for having me on. I can't wait to talk a little US Open at Oakmont. Let's go.
Absolutely. So let's talk about the event itself first. Mike Shelton, what do you like? What is the U.S. Open's our national championship. It is if you've got the American flag on one event during the year, this is it. What does it mean to you?
As you can see, I have my U.S. Open hat on right now. It means a lot with those red, white, and blue colors. I try to tie that into Tin Cup, and it has not worked out very well so far. But it is our national championship. What I think about when I think of this tournament is just absolutely difficult playing conditions. You see these guys tear up courses around the U.S. No matter how long they build them, but just the way they design the setup for these courses. I mean, it sometimes almost makes it difficult to watch. I think for most of us that are not Wes's handicap, it is kind of nice to see some of these guys struggle sometimes. Sometimes I think the U.S. Open does it. They overdo it a little bit. But at the same point in time, it's nice to have that kind of mix up from your week to week PGA Tour event.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, before I go any further, guys, it is my fault, but what you drinking this week, Wes?
I've actually got some a Jefferson's Reserve, a very small batch. That's what it says on the bottle.
A
So
very small batch.
it says very small batch, but it is very, very good. I highly recommend it. Got it on sale at the local liquor store that happens to be closing down. So snagged me a bottle and I'm enjoying it.
Nice. Shelton, what do you got in your hand?
I had a gift from someone for doing some letters for them at some point in time. I have Elijah Craig Toasted Barrel,
Nice.
and it was just opened a second ago, and I will say it is pretty delicious.
Yeah.
Very. I went like super old school today, so I figured U.S. Open. You can talk about like kind of history for me, just plain old Jim Beam.
Boy.
So, guys,
Love it. Love it.
cheers.
Cheers, gentlemen. Cheers, cheers.
All right. So, same question, Wes. What does the U.S. Open mean to you?
Carnage. Absolute carnage.
Fair
No,
enough.
I mean, I agree with Shelton. It's good to see the guys struggle, but I don't like when a certain organization loses the golf course,
Yeah.
USGA. Some of these older school courses, they weren't really designed to have the green speeds as fast as they are. Um, and they tend to lose them. So hopefully, I'm not gonna lie, I've been doing a lot of just deep dives on Oakmont, just seeing the history of it and stuff like that. And man, I just hope they don't lose this one because this could be a really, really fun US Open, very low under par if they just, or I'm saying stay around par, sorry. You
Yeah.
might see a one or two, three under maybe, but I think it'll be a fair test and just how those greens are designed. So hopefully USGA lets the course shine and play like how it's supposed to.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. For me too, one of the biggest things that I always think about is the U.S. Open is it's just that it's open, and it's if you're good enough, if you want to go through qualifying, you can play in the tournament. Like
Mhm.
any of us, like any of us that said, "Hey, you know what? I believe that I'm good enough." You got a shot. Doesn't mean you'll make it, but you got to swing at it. Like they'll allow you to step in the box and actually try to qualify. And that's like to me, like that's one of the coolest parts about it to me is that truly like more so than any other sport for me, like with golf, with that part of it. Because if I wanted to go out and say, hey, I think I can go hit a 95-mile-an-hour fastball today. I want to go see if I can qualify, quote unquote, to be in the major leagues or, whatever it is. You don't have control over that, but
Mhm.
you really do have control over it. Like you play your best. And if you're good enough, you can go play in the U.S. Open. That to me is one of the most special things about the event.
Yeah, for sure.
So, Shelton, I'll ask you this. I don't know if you noticed this. Did you see where Phil Mickelson was quoted this week as saying this might be his last U.S. Open?
I did see that. I don't know if I fully agree with that, but Phil is Phil, and there are certain things he says he will go do. So If he does, it's been a wonderful career. He's been one of the most fun golfers to watch in history. If it is, I hope he plays well and wish him the best.
Yeah, I think he played. I think he played pretty well in this week's live event so far. But I know Phil holds a special place in your heart, Wes. So, what did you hear? Did you hear that? And what did you think?
Yeah, I heard that, and with like a true Phil fan, and we'll wait and see. We know Phil likes to talk and do all that fun stuff, so I'll wait until I actually see a formal retirement, and then 4 or 5 years goes by and he doesn't play in one. But
Yeah,
I mean, I think it's impressive for what he's done at his age. You know, we winning at Kiowa, a major at his age. He gets hot. You just don't know what the guy will do. He's an incredible talent. I have a feeling if he finishes in the top 10 this week, there is no way this is his last US Open.
100% agree.
Zero. He may not play at Wingfoot, but this won't be the last if he plays well. I think even if he makes the cut and plays well on the weekend and shows some flashes of his old self, I don't see him hanging it up. Now, if he shoots 90-90 back to back, then yeah, he might be done. But I just don't see that in Phil.
Yeah, no, I was kind of surprised when I heard it.
Hmm.
It made me think about though. I mean, as far as how many second place finishes he's had in the U.S. Opens over the years, and then also like one of the first memories or one of the things that I have in my head as far as when I really started to enjoy the game of golf was the 2006 U.S. Open when he bounced it off the tent and ended up screwing up the last hole. Or I mean
Yeah.
we wouldn't be talking, we wouldn't be having this conversation. It would have been 19 years ago he'd have won a U.S. Open.
Hmm.
Um, but it's that was one of the first things that I ever really paid a whole lot of attention to. I couldn't believe it that he was. I mean, I can remember it because I was with my now wife's family. We were in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and I'm sitting in a bedroom just watching the end of the U.S. Open. Like everyone else is like, "Why? What are you doing?" And it's like, and I'm watching Phil give it away on the last hole, and it was just like, so when I heard him say, "Hey, this might be my last one," and to think somebody who we've watched for years now, for 30 plus years, is now, saying, "Hey, I don't know that I'm good enough anymore to compete in this. I don't know if I think it's passed me by." And that was just like a really, that was surprising to me. The other thing, and this kind of goes into what I wanted to talk about next, was to say that you're not going to play in another US Open when you're talking about on a monster course like Oakmont, and you're going to judge like, hey, whether this is a pass or fail based on Oakmont. Like to me, I think last time he played in it, I think is when he hurt his wrist and he couldn't even. I think he couldn't even get out of the first two rounds because he got injured. But
Yeah. Great point.
yeah, so I mean, so Oakmont as a course, though, it's got a huge amount of respect from the whole country. Anyone who's a golfer, like I mean, as far as like when they talk about it, it's got a lot of respect. Course was built in 1903, and it seemed to hold up pretty good over the last 122 years. What do you guys think, Sheldon?
Yeah.
I mean, I agree. I think it's gonna be a great test. I mean, it's difficult, like I just mentioned earlier, lengthening courses. We've done all these things to try to contain these players, but really, I think when you're watching, what really gets them narrow fairways, long rough, and then you bring in the weather. And I don't know what the weather is going to be like this week, but just look at that fairway right there behind Wes. I mean, it looks like it's about 4 yards wide. I don't know if you want to be in the church pews on the left or the bunkers on the right, but I can promise you it's probably neither one of those. So I think it'll hold up. It'll hold up and give these players a good test. Um, so looking forward to it.
Wes, I know you said you've looked at it a lot this week. So what are your thoughts on Oakmont?
Um, I want to play there so bad. Like it's just so cool. I think the one thing that doesn't get a lot of attention is the green designs. There's some greens out there that you got fingers kind of running in and out of them. You've got some tricky pin positions that they can throw out there. So, um, and it just looks so cool. It's like just out in the middle of, Pennsylvania in this open field, it looks
Martin
like. And
Country.
yeah, and the undulations, I don't think people appreciate. There's some pretty good ones. The front nine looks like the brutal nine so far. Number one is not an easy opening hole going into two and three. Then you got to deal with the church pews. I mean, it looks like from the moment that ball goes in the air, it's hang on. And, a bogey's not necessarily a bad thing, but doubles in a US Open, it's kind of checkmate after that because you're not going to make it up with a ton of birdies. And this course is not going to give you a ton of birdies.
So one of the coolest things I thought it was really interesting, the guy who built Oakmont or designed it, the original designer, it's the only course he ever did. Henry Clay Fawns, I believe is his name. And
Uh-huh.
it's the only golf course the guy designed. And it ends
Yeah.
up being one of the most highly regarded golf courses in the history of the game within the United States. How crazy is that?
Yeah. It's, you wonder what made him stop. I didn't go down that rabbit hole, but man, if this is what an amateur did one time, I would have loved to have seen what else he could have came up with, the land that he had with Oakmont, where else he could throw some stuff up there. It's very impressive.
I'm guessing in 1903, probably somebody looked at him and said, "Hey, dumbass, plant corn on that land and stop designing golf courses."
Yeah.
I'm going to go on a different route. I'm going to say he knew what he had, and this was just a mic drop moment. He's like, I'm doing one and done, and I'm off.
I need one of the
Smart man, yeah.
I need one of those moments in my life.
Kidding.
Maybe this is it.
Like Michelangelo paint the Sistine Chapel, first time grabbing a paintbrush, and he's like, "I'm done."
I'm out. I'm out, boys.
So did either of you get to see DeChambeau's preview video, like where he went around he played around on the whole course while they're putting up the stands and everything? I thought that was super cool. Did you see it, Sheldon?
I did not get to see that.
So I thought it was really interesting because you were actually seeing one of the top players in the world, like actually kind of go through his practice round, and kind of it really kind of. I mean, he talked through his shots, talked through his thought process as he was going to putting greens. And granted, the greens were much slower, I think, than what they're going to be for play, but it was really pretty cool. It was unique. I don't think I've ever seen anybody actually walk through their practice round and like at a major championship venue. And I was kind of amazed really that the USGA and that Oakmont allowed them to film so much there. I thought that was really cool on their part. But Wes, it seems like you watched it. What'd you think?
I watched it twice. I thought, I seriously, I thought it was absolutely fantastic. Kudos to Bryson. Kudos to the USGA allowing. I think they had a bunch of creators out that week.
Okay.
So they did. There's the foreplay guys, filling up all those guys. They all went out there and shot content. I think you're going to see something from Grant come up Monday or Tuesday. So, but awesome to Bryson to do that. He had his caddy with him. They had an Oakmont caddy, and man, they just walked through that course, and it was showing its teeth. And it's not even U.S. Open, so I think it's going to be fun. And I think that's about probably how the members play the course. And even it was given Bryson fits, so it's really cool. I actually thought he played a phenomenal round of golf when he's like 1 or 2 under or something like that.
Even he was that even.
He did,
Yeah.
right, yeah. So I mean, just show you there it was a practice round, a little bit of wind, and it wasn't even fiery conditions, and he went out and shot even.
Right.
I know y'all mentioned this before, but when it came to YouTube golf and Bryson, you have to give this guy credit for what he's done with that. And I think this is just another example. I mean, he's opening up golf to another group of people and letting you see it from a different lens than just what we see on TV. And I like I said, it's amazing what he has done with that. And I think he was kind of disliked there for a while. I think a lot of people kind of misunderstood him when he went to live and some of the analytics and the bodybuilding. But my gosh, that guy has done an amazing job connecting with the fans, and I mean, other members of the tour, both tours.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think so too. I mean, 100%. I mean, he really took ownership over his own image. He took ownership over what did he want his content to look like and be. I mean, and it's to your point, there's not another player that is of his caliber. I mean, yes, we have other YouTube golfers. There are even some of them like the Bryan brothers, or I know Wesley Bryan at least like I think he qualified for the U.S. Open. But for somebody who is truly a top 10 golfer, probably arguably a top 5 golfer in the world, a guy who won a major last year, a guy who's contended in almost every major aside from the Open Championship last year for the last 2 years. for him to spend the time that he does on creating content and then to be able to get into a competitive mindset and actually turn it on, that's amazing to me that he can shift between the two. Even in the same event, you can see him kind of put that
Mhm.
entertainer hat on, and I think it's so impressive.
Yeah, and I think I heard the foreplay guys talk about this, and they made a really great point, like how little competition the live guys are getting, but you're seeing Bryson up there in most of the majors, contending. And they made a great point of like he's going out to these, ragtag golf courses wanting course records, and he's getting one shot at it, and it's on camera. He's actually playing with some pressure in these videos that he's,
Hmm.
the break, 50s and all like so he's actually, I think, getting more tournament time by doing those videos and have some pressure than the rest of the live guys because we saw the PGA Championship. Rahm faded out in the end, and golf is 72 holes, man, and I think that has something to do with it. I just don't think they get the quality reps that the PGA Tour guys do week in, week out. And Bryson doing this thing on his own and setting like goals. He's simulating pressure where most people aren't. Now, granted, they're probably out playing their money games at Whisper Rock and all that, but it's just unless they're playing for $200 million out of their bank account, it's not the same pressure.
No, I think it's a great point.
Yeah.
So along those lines, we talk about Bryson, but just for the whole field, do you think that there is a type of player that benefits this week, like on at Oakmont over another, or do you think that it's a fair test for all involved? Shelton?
I'm as I'm looking at my picks, I'm going through that exact battle right now. You think about more recent PGA events, it's bomb and gouge, right? You hit it as far as you
Hmm.
can. If you're in the rough, gives you a shorter wedge, maybe have an advantage. Um, but just the bunker designs, the layout, and the grass, I think it's going to be very difficult. So then you start going, who can put it in the fairway, and then just ball striking ability and get it close. Uh, I don't know who this course is set up for. Uh, I'm looking forward to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm right there with you, Sheldon. I'm juggling with, it's you got to have some power out there. One really depends on how fast the fairways are going to get, but I think it's going to come down to more driving accuracy and approach. A guy that pumps it out there, carries it 280, rolls out to 290, 300, I think is going to be pretty valuable. I know DJ won here in 16, and he's your dude was incredible back then. And mean, and then in that same year, you had Shane Lowry tied for second. So it's kind of like he's not a bomber, but he's a great iron player. He's short game. I also think who's got a strong mental game coming into this thing and not being discouraged with, two bogeys in a row. So I think it's going to be a blend of driving accuracy, but you have to be slightly longer than average to to compete out there.
No, I think all of those are fair points. I think that it was interesting even watching Bryson do that little practice round thing because there were several times where they would talk about him and his caddy be like 3-wood or driver, and he kept going. He was like, well, driver, because I got to get it down as far as I possibly can so that I can have a shorter club. And even if he was in the rough, he wanted to have a
Hmm.
wedge in his hand or something with more loft rather than laying back. And then if he makes a mistake, then you've got a flat face club trying to get out of that rough. And
Yep.
I do. I mean, to me, I feel like length always provides an advantage. I don't care what anybody says. If you can hit the ball further, means you got something with more loft and a shorter shaft, or unless it's the same length shaft that Bryson's using. But
Yeah.
but but you got more control over your ball, I think,
Hmm.
even if you're coming out of the rough, even though the rough looks absolutely ridiculous what they
Yeah.
showed. So no, I think that's. But if somebody comes out there and hits 14 fairways and hits 90% of their greens and they can putt, then it doesn't really matter if they're a little shorter
Hmm.
than the rest of the field either.
No.
So I guess after that we can kind of go to picks. I mean, who do you like? I think we've got several absentee people here that we have to make up for. So Our usual person that would handle this decided not to show up today. So when he listens to this, thank you very much, Mike Padron, because this is not my specialty.
Wasn't this his choice of date too? Wasn't he the first one that
Oh.
said, "Hey, let's do June 6th"?
100%. This was Mike Padron's choice of date, and he cancels on us hours before. So thank you very much for that. We will tag his Twitter handle and his Instagram handle at the bottom of this. So if anybody wants to say anything choice to him, be my guest.
Do it. I encourage it.
All right. So for the first person that we have picking is Chris Blakely. Shelton, you have Blakely's first pick?
I do. He wants the person we discussed probably most of this episode, not named Phil Mickelson, Bryson DeChambeau.
All right. Taking some notes here so I can send them on to our person that is MIA today. All right. Speaking of that person, he has the next pick. I could really do him dirty here and just totally shaft him with his picks here, but I'm not going to do that. All right, so his first pick, he's going to pick Scotty Scheffler, so that you can't argue with that one. I mean, it is crazy that we haven't even mentioned his name, like as far as talking about this, just because the guy has been ridiculous. I think he's won his last 3 events that he entered, right?
Yeah, and I mean, he's doing. I think it's coming down to like who you're going to take. You're going to take Scotty or the field. At least bet sometimes he's getting very Tiger-esque. So, I mean, I think we all know, and anyone who listens to this, Scotty is going to be the favorite. So, I mean,
100%.
there's not much to say. He's incredible, and let him go.
No doubt. Sheldon, you're next. Who do you got for your first pick?
I think we did mention Scheffler. We talked about we want a guy who hits it long and straight and a good out of the rough. We just didn't say his name, but we all knew who we were talking about. That was Scotty.
Fair enough.
This was supposed to be his year of majors. He obviously had one, not as much the last time, but I think with him on the board, I'm going to have to go Rory McIlroy.
And then next we have Mr. Altus.
I don't love this, but there's something in my gut that's screaming this. I'm going Xander.
All right. So my turn. And I know it's funny you said that about John Rahm, but John Rahm's going to be my pick. I feel like I think that he kind of did have a rough start of it when he first went to live. I think he was having a hard time figuring it out when he'd come back from majors. He seemed like he had a rough go of it, but he definitely seemed like he kind of got his legs underneath him here at the PGA Championship. He seemed like you said, he faded out at the end there, but a lot of people did. I don't think he was the only one, and you couldn't just point at one tour. So John Rahm is going to be my pick there. And I kind of went back and forth. So when we're going back around for our second pick, I kind of was going back and forth with a couple of different people. I'm going to go Brooks Koepka, and I know that he has not really had a great season this year. But I feel like he's one of those competitive people that doesn't like to see his name at the bottom. He doesn't like to miss cuts, and I feel like he's got something to prove.
Yeah. Okay. Good pick.
I picked him in the Masters for the same reason. He did not do me very well.
Wes, who's your second pick?
I am going to go. He's playing pretty solid. I'm going to go with Sepp Straka.
All right. Shelton?
Going back to the Scotty talk, you talked about someone who drives it far, all that. I'm like, oh, you want Scotty or a robot? Who is best known as the robot of the PGA Tour? Ludwig.
Lud.
Yep.
I was dancing around him too, man.
All right, so Padron's second pick after that was Shane Lowry. So Mike Padron selects Shane Lowry. And so the last pick of it is for Dr. Chris Blakely. Dr. Michael Shelton, can you please let me know what your former colleague selected here?
Dr. Shelton is off duty. Chris gave me four names, and they were Bryson DeChambeau, Scotty Scheffler, Xander Schauffele, and Shane Lowry. So we get to pick for him.
So I did write in order from favorite all the way down about 10 spots or so. But the people that are still on the board, we have like Morikawa, Fleetwood, Neiman, Hatton, Cantlay.
So he's had Colin Morikawa and he's had Cam Smith,
Okay.
based off what I wrote down from previous. So I literally was leaning towards that kind of Fleetwood pick. I know Padron's kind of big on him and picked him previously. I don't think that's a bad play. That would be my vote.
Yeah. If we're just going down who the favorites are as of today.
Who won the U.S. Amateur this year? That's who I think you should have.
I would go even better than that. I would just pick Charlie Wood, USGA winner.
All right, so Fleetwood it is.
Yeah.
Please just send that out when y'all send it out later. Pick Charlie Woods for him and see what he's flying to Denver, so it's going to take a little while for him to figure it out. But I think that should go out in the official text thread.
Actually, his pick should be the first alternate who gets him.
I like it. We don't know who your guy is yet. We'll find out on Wednesday.
Actually, it'll probably be Thursday morning. We'll find out who the first alternate was to get in.
There you go. All right, boys. I hope you enjoy watching it next week. I will actually be in Ireland myself, so hopefully I'll catch it at a pub, or I will catch the highlights. But
Fantastic.
enjoy it, boys.
Enjoy your trip.
Cheers.
Cheers, gentlemen.
Thanks, Jesse.